Hi, I'm Joe Johnson, and I'm a third year set design MFA candidate here at Northwestern.
Hi, I'm Meeka Postman, and I am also a third year costume design MFA candidate at Northwestern.
Great.
We are the design support for a few short plays and What You Did for the Black Playwrights Festival, directed by Tor. And we're just going to run you through our research and talk a little bit about the design. This is an interesting play. It's a modern piece that's never been produced before, so we don't have a lot of historical context or dramaturgical things because it is a new work, which is also really exciting to work on a new work. Especially we got to talk to the playwright, which was really cool, and we had a conversation with him and learned about where these stories came from and what his vision was for them. The playwright's name is Steve Harper. So let's go through kind of where we started. And I think something interesting to note is that this is a virtual reading, and we have never done that before. And so part of this process was just trying to figure out how to create a sense of design in this virtual format for something like a reading. Because usually readings don't come with a lot of design. It's usually people just sitting on stage, but we wanted to figure out a way to make it engaging and to really enhance the story. So here is our PowerPoint. You want to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah, so for the world of this A Few Short Plays, which is the first of the two readings in the night, A Few Short Plays, we talked a great deal about what was this strange space that they're in, because it's very undefined. And I was looking at a lot of James Turrell style exhibits, use of light and blank sort of canvas-like spaces. And I think it's interesting that, there's one of these images where this woman is standing beneath this open oculus, and it seems like a magnifying glass, like someone's watching her. And when you see what the play becomes, there is another character introduced that has been watching them the whole time and is watching the earth. And within this play, these three characters have to exist together. And I think it's very interesting to think of a very big open space and how the three characters have to interact with each other in such a large, vast void. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about, with Steve Harper, about sort of the inside, the way he would describe it was like an inside of an egg. So there is sort of round imagery that we began to explore throughout, but these were some early research images that felt right for how the space should feel in relation to the characters and the story that is happening in this void.
So one of the challenges was, how do you create a sense of void, egg-like quality, I guess,
Yeah.
Over Zoom or over a video sharing thing. So something we came up with was this fisheye lens, which is a really simple solution to our problem. You can put them on the camera of your computer, and it will create this round lens. And it really was a good way to show, this sense of the people in the space being watched, or maybe they can come up to the thing and it's like a security camera. And so that was a really cool, simple way to show the egg and to engage in that way, that we were really excited about.
And it becomes really funny too, because these characters are transported into a space they don't know. Yeah. And so when Meeka found these images, it was really great because, like I said, there was a round egg-like shape that Steve Harper felt was right for this piece. And it's also in relation, the earth and is a round globe, is a sphere. And these three playwrights, essentially it's a few short plays to save the world. So without giving it away, there's something happening there. So So yeah, these were really great images Meeka uncovered.
Thanks. So we were really interested in the idea of like a colorful background and maybe black and white figures, just to create another sense of like, ooh, weird, where are they? What is happening? It created an equalizer, which was a really interesting comment on the subject matter of the play. And so that was something we were looking at in the editing process too. If we could do that, if we could make the figures black and white and the background colorful, just, thinking like, how do we manipulate this Zoom reading?
Yeah.
So another equalizer in the play is that all these people are kind of like beamed from their beds, and it creates a sense of, none of these people were able to present themselves or put on any sort of affront for the other people. They are, as they are, in a very vulnerable way of dress. And so it also created like a comical element to have them all in their pajamas. And as a practical note, it was really easy to costume. We don't have a budget. We're not able to fit actors. And so I really needed to find things that they had in their own possession that would also bring the story forward. So each actor, I just asked them to pull out some pajamas, and we're going to look at what they had. And it ended up being really fun. And it's true to the story, and it doesn't feel like a compromise. So the character of Robert is this alien who is presenting as a white male, but doesn't really understand how to be a human. And so something we were looking forward to, which you'll see, is, finding things for him that he would have thought were really cool, but everyone else would be like, those don't go together. So I had fun with the actor looking through his wardrobe and finding pieces that were clashing, and just to set him apart as someone who isn't really from Earth. So we move on to What You Did, which is the second piece, which is a total shift from a few short plays to save the world. This is a story that happens at a film festival in form of a step and repeat. So completely different concept. Having these people in front of this screen. You want to talk about it a little bit, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the play, it says that, it's in a theater. So we had started a lot with imagery of different types of theaters or movie theaters. But then our director, Tor, he does have a film background in directing. And so he had this idea of putting these characters in front of what it's called a step and repeat. And Meeka and I had really no idea what that was. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we know what that is. But we're like, what is the step and repeat? And what's really interesting is, a few short plays and What You Did, they're not connected in any way. They're just two different short pieces by Steve Harper. But which is just interesting in thinking about if these were on stage, it's just have these three characters in a few short plays, it'd be in a very large space next to each other, and then the contrast of and also being watched. And in this one, the characters are being watched as photographers, and people are watching them cross the step and repeat. But then there's a tension of like being really close to them against a pretty hard surface background. And then these two characters have to interact very close together, and they don't really want to be close together. Mm-hmm. And they're forced to be in that way. And so just thinking of these, just seeing what sort of step and repeats are out there and what that could mean was really exciting to find.
And an easy thing to translate onto video.
Yeah.
Which was exciting.
Mm-hmm. So just what's interesting about this too is Steve Harper, had when we got to talk to him, he did say, he had, he didn't really have an exact interaction like this, but he could have had an interaction that would have taken place like in this play. And it happened at the Long Beach Film Festival. So that was just kind of an interesting tidbit of like research to think, okay, what is the Long Beach Film Festival like? What is a step and repeat like there? And I just love these two images at the bottom. Again, these people, like from a photography sense, they're standing there. We just see them smiling. They look happy, but like, what are they talking about? And so this piece presents us an interesting dynamic of having to smile in front of the camera, in front of a crowd, and be happy. But like, what is the relationship between the two people there? Is it actually smiling and being friendly, or do we get to see something a little bit more real and tension driven between them? And I think the step and repeat, this piece that Steve Harper wrote, is a really interesting dynamic between two characters that are forced to be together in a very enclosed space.
So much like a few short plays, this was a piece that the actors could dress themselves with their own wardrobe. It wasn't anything too crazy. So I asked them to just bring things that were nice, something that they would wear to something like this. What I love about it is, again, it's not compromising the story to use their own pieces. It goes with the story, and it really works for this reading. And that is the end of our research presentation.
And yeah, no, I was just going to say too, Meeka, that like something interesting that when we were having a conversation with Steve Harper was, why did he write these plays? And I think, he had to think about it, but it was like a really great dialogue we had where it's a few short plays is the problems that maybe, playwrights all have with like literally a blank piece of paper. Like, what do you write? I mean, everything in theater or film rides on the script. And then also for, being a playwright of color or a Black playwright is even harder. The scrutiny is even harder. And then, with what you did is then once the work is out there, it's like the criticism again is even more intensified. And then the defending that and having to like be in a institution of playwriting where it has been dominated by white culture. And so that is always present, I think, even within these two pieces. And it was such a great conversation we had with Steve. And again, often us as students, we don't really get to interact with a playwright. And it was really great to interact with a playwright. So
I think these two plays, even though they're so different, they go so well together in this idea of like how hard it is to be a playwright and the awkwardness of traversing this world, especially as a playwright of color. And I hope that by using humor, almost like SNL, like it gets to the truth of that in a really engaging way.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you for listening to us talk about the design. I hope you really enjoy the readings, and be well.
Thank you.